Hello, I'm Janet Dudley Eschbach, and I'm president of Salisbury University in Salisbury, Maryland. The American Library Association reports that more than 11,000 books have been challenged in American schools and libraries since 1982. That year, Banned Books Week was launched in response to this growing controversy. Salisbury University's Blackwell Library is joining school, university, and public libraries from across the country to celebrate this year's Banned Books Week, which runs from September 22nd to the 28th. We hope that you will join us too and celebrate this important event by honoring and declaring your freedom and right to read. To begin, I would like to read a page in English and then in Spanish from one of my favorite banned books, The House of the Spirits by Isabel Allende. This book was challenged twice in California because it was considered by some as being immoral and sexually depraved. So first in English. Again, this is from The House of the Spirits by Isabel Allende. Chapter 1, Rosa the Beautiful. Barrabás came to us by sea, the child Clara wrote in her delicate calligraphy. She was already in the habit of writing down important matters, and afterward, when she was mute, she also recorded trivialities, never suspecting that 50 years later I would use her notebooks to reclaim the past and override la memoria del pasado y para sobrevivir a mi propio espanto. El día que llegó Barrabás era Jueves Santo. Venía en una jaula indigna, cubierto de sus propios excrementos y orines, con una mirada extraviada de preso miserable e indefenso. Pero ya se adivinaba.
When he was nearly 13, my brother Jem got his arm badly broken at the elbow. When it healed, and Jem's fears of never being able to play football were assuaged, he was seldom self-conscious about his injury. His left arm was somewhat shorter than his right. When he stood or walked, the back...
Parents would have had 2 hemorrhages apiece if I'd told anything pretty personal about them. They're quite touchy about anything like that, especially my father. They're nice and all, I'm not saying that, but they're also touchy as hell. Besides, I'm not going to tell you my whole goddamn autobiography or anything. I'll just tell you about this madman stuff that happened to me around last Christmas, just before I got pretty run down and I had to come out here and take it easy.
One day when Pooh Bear had nothing else to do, he thought he would do something, so he went round to Piglet's house to see what Piglet was doing. It was still snowing as he stumped over the white forest track, and he expected to find Piglet warming his toes in front of the fire. But the more he looked inside, Piglet wasn't there. "He's out," said Pooh sadly.
Edward Bear, coming downstairs now. Bump, 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 on the back of his head, behind Christopher Robin. It is, as far as he knows, the only way of coming downstairs, but sometimes he feels there is really is another way, if only he could stop bumping for a moment and think of it. And then he feels that perhaps there isn't. Anyhow, here he is.
It was a bright, cold day in April, and the clocks were striking 13. Winston Smith, his chin nuzzled into his breast in an effort to escape the vile wind, slipped quickly through the glass doors of Victory Mansions, though not quickly enough to prevent a swirl of gritty dust from entering along with him. The hallway smelt of boiled cabbage and
Dining hall, taking care to keep to one side and out of sight of the kitchen. The 3 great tables that ran the length of the hall were laid already, the silver and the glass catching what little light there was, and the long benches were pulled out ready for the guests. Portraits of former masters hung high up in the gloom along the walls. Lyra reached the dais and looked back at the opening kitchen door.
I went back to the Devon School not long ago and found it looking oddly newer than when I was a student there 15 years before. It seemed more sedate than I remembered it, more perpendicular and straight-laced, with narrower windows and shinier woodwork, as though a coat of varnish had been put over everything for better preservation. But of course, 15 years before, there had been a war going on.
Did you ever hear of Mickey, how he heard a racket in the night and shouted, "Quiet down there!" and fell through the dark, out of his clothes, past the moon and his mama and papa sleeping tight? into the light of the night kitchen?
I am an invisible man. No, I am not a spook like those who haunted Edgar Allan Poe, nor am I one of your Hollywood movie ectoplasms. I am a man of substance, of flesh and bone, fiber and liquids, and I might even be said to possess a mind. I'm invisible.
Sunday 14, June 1942. On Friday, June 12th, I woke up at 6 o'clock. No wonder, it was my birthday. But of course, I was not allowed to get up at that hour, so I had to wait until 6:45. Soon afterward, I went to Mommy and Daddy, and then to the sitting room to unwrap my presents. The first to greet me was you, my diary. Possibly the
go off at any moment because Harry Potter wasn't a normal boy. As a matter of fact, he was as not normal as it possible to be. Harry Potter was a wizard fresh from his first year at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, and if the Dursleys were...
Where are you going, Jess? Maybelle lifted herself up sleepily from the double bed where she and Joyce Ann slept. Shh, he warned. The walls were thin. Mama would be mad as flies in a fruit jar if they woke her up this time of day. He patted Maybelle's hair and yanked the twisted sheet up to her small chin.
Billy Ray Cobb was the younger and smaller of the two rednecks. At 23, he was already a 3-year veteran of the state penitentiary at Parchman. Possession with an intent to sell. He was a lean, tough little punk who had survived prison by somehow maintaining a ready supply of drugs that he sold and sometimes gave to the blacks and the guards for protection. In the years since his release,
in my younger and more vulnerable years, my father gave me some advice that I've been turning over in my mind ever since. Whenever you feel like criticizing anyone, he told me, just remember that all the people in this world haven't had the advantages that you've had. He didn't say any more, but we've always been unusually communicative in a reserved way, and I understood that he meant a great deal more than that.
Like most juicy stories, it started at a party. I watched Nickelodeon all morning in my room so I wouldn't have to eat breakfast with them, Blair Waldorf told her two best friends and Constance Billard's schoolmates, Katie Vargas and Isabel Coates. My mother cooked him an omelette. I didn't even know that she knew how to use the stove. Blair tucked her long, dark brown hair behind her ears.
Ours is an essentially tragic age, so we refuse to take it tragically. The cataclysm has happened. We are among the ruins. We start to build up new little habits, to have new little hopes. It is rather hard work. There is now no smooth road into the future, but we go round, or we scramble.
I first met Dean not long after my wife and I split up. I had just gotten over a serious illness that I won't bother to talk about, except that it had something to do with the miserably weary split up and my feeling that everything was dead. With the coming of Dean Moriarty began the part of my life you could call my life on the road. Before that, I'd often dreamed of going west to see the country, always vaguely planning and never taking off.
The boy with fair hair lowered himself down the last few feet of rock and began to pick his way toward the lagoon. Though he had taken off his school sweater and trailed it now from one hand, his gray shirt stuck to him and his hair was plastered to his forehead. All round him, the long scar smashed into the jungle was a bath of heat. He was clambering heavily among the creepers and broken trunks when a bird...
Claims and boasts are hollow. The white man of South Africa certainly does not know me. He certainly does not know the conditions under which I was born and had to live for 18 years. So my story is intended to show him with words a world he would otherwise not see because of a sign and a conscience racked with guilt, and to make him feel what I felt when he contemptuously called me a Kaffa boy.
Beginning on a dog day Monday in the middle of August, when the West Texas heat congealed in the sky, there were only the stirrings of dreams. It was the very first official day of practice, and it marked the start of a new team, a new year, a new season, with a new rallying cry scribbled madly in the books of yearbooks and on the rear windows of cars, going to state in '88. It was a little after 6 in the morning when the coaches started trickling into Permian High School Fieldhouse. The streets of Odessa were...
You don't know about me without you have read a book by the name of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, but that ain't no matter. That book was made by Mr. Mark Twain, and he told the truth, mainly. There was things which he stretched, but mainly he told the truth. That was nothing. I never seen anybody but lied at some point or another, without it was Aunt Polly or the widow, or maybe Mary.
Jewel and I come up from the field, following the path in single file. Although I am 15 feet ahead of him, anyone watching us from the cotton house can see Jewel's frayed and broken straw hat a full head above my own. The path runs straight as a plumb line, worn smooth by feet and baked brick hard by July, between the green rows of laid-by cotton, to the cotton house in the center of the field, where it turns and circles the cotton house at 4 soft...
Last week, my best friend Oscar got really sick. At first, I thought he just had heat exhaustion or something. I mean, it was a crazy hot July day, 102 degrees, 90% humidity, and plenty of people were falling over from heat exhaustion, so why not a little dog wearing a fur coat? I tried to give him some water, but he didn't want any of that. He was lying in his bed with red, watery...
Some writers have so confounded society with government as to leave little or no distinction between them, whereas they are not only different, but have different origins. Society is produced by our wants, and government by our wickedness. The former promotes our happiness positively by uniting our affections, the latter negatively by restraining our vices. The one encourages intercourse, the other creates distinctions. The first is a patron, the last a punisher. I want to thank President Janet Dudley Eschbach for providing the funding to film our Banned Books Week readings. And I want to thank everyone who joined with the library in affirming the importance of the free exchange of ideas. As the American Library Association declared in 1953 in its statement on the freedom to read, we believe that what people read is deeply important, that ideas can be dangerous, but that the suppression of ideas is fatal to a democratic society. Freedom itself is a dangerous way of life, but it is ours.
Vardaman. My mother is a fish.